Hey guys, this is Buck. Out here on the water, about to do the initial test on it. Haven't done anything yet, so whether it works awesome or it's got bugs in it, we'll figure it out together. I am hooked up right now to the 24 volt, hanging out for a minute. I'm actually gonna run at top speed on the 24 volt system and then wide open momentarily to the 36, just to see the difference between the two. Same day, same water, same wind. Only variable would be, you know, what your boat is. I am going to touch on safety a little bit. If you do decide to build something like this, definitely do your research. Make sure your whatever connections you're using, the wire size are correct, any bus or terminals that you're using. If in doubt, always go oversized or do your research or ask some questions from electricians or people who play with electricity on a regular basis. The other thing that I'm not going to do, even though I think it would be okay, is with these I can check them at the voltage, see where I'm at as a general idea. If I manage to run all these down, I would not kick this up on high and only have one or two batteries hanging around that one battery bar voltage, because while I think it should stop itself before it pulls too many amps, I would be worried if a single battery or two batteries is trying to create a really high load. I've tested these individually. These batteries actually can do a decent amount of load individually. When you break that load into 8 batteries, even at full force, it should be a safe factory, because again, it's not one battery is taking that full amp load, it's distributed among the batteries the way everything's wired in. Also, boat safety, a general rule of thumb, always say let somebody know where you're at, a general time frame when to get back, some type of communication. Also, with this being, these batteries are not supposed to get wet, so I did like the idea of putting them potentially where my battery storage compartment is in the back. The issue with that is it has the potential to get wet. These batteries are not supposed to get wet. I've had power tools, I accidentally leave a battery out every now and again working on a project and it gets rained on. A lot of times it destroys the battery. But again, when you start talking about boats in particular, what if they short out and catch on fire? That could be a really big issue. I do have a fire extinguisher, and yeah, it is cold today. Other things I would say is do some type of flotation, especially if you're by yourself. Even if you're a good swimmer, it's never a bad idea. And then that right there, that's my little Garmin guy. So literally had a buddy have an issue out in the bay, and they was able to find them, locate them. You can hit the SOS wherever you're at and that'll work. So anyway, just little tidbits on safety there. Don't want nobody to do anything that's dangerous to get hurt, because fire on water is definitely a big issue. And the nice thing about this being portable, worst case scenario, I could chunk the whole thing or pull one battery out. I can really keep an eye on it to do the testing on this. So first thing we're going to do here, let's just hit it in the right direction. And Force has some cool features here. So I'm gonna hit it, and it has a decent amount of torque. Like, I've been pretty impressed with this on even on the 24 volt. And that right there is a good example of, you do want to use charts. Imagine that this lake varies a decent amount. You can see the bank line. So if you came through here and you didn't know that was there, that could be an issue. So again, this is how I would continuously run mine with we're at 3.5. Should you see that? Which the nice thing about the GoPro is it should also record the speed. So again, that's wide open, doing 3.5. Shut that down. Now the way I've got mine rigged up here, it's a quick disconnect. Hold that just for a second. And all the benefit of the Force is you can switch from 26 volt and I also have one of these wired in. So this is where we're going to do some monitoring here today. So system's coming back online, so I can actually monitor my watts. This was 0, so that's just a little booting up and plugging in. But first use here. Wow. So if anybody's debating switching to 36, that is a jump in power there. Actually, if you're 36 even on this size of the boat, that was I don't know if you can tell it, me holding the camera, that was enough of a bump that could catch somebody off guard for sure. That's my other favorite thing about the Force is you can pick your heading. So if I'm doing trolling like in this little channel, I can sit here, look at my chart, and just keep changing my heading and troll really the spots I've had marked. And that would be a bad day if the water was another 2 feet higher and you come through there and didn't know that was there. Even if you don't have maps, I do recommend some type of smartphone app, especially if you are not familiar with that body of water. It could really make a difference in a good day or a bad day. Oh wow. So we are at 4.3 on 36. So that's 0.8 miles an hour different. I picked up almost 1 mile per hour on this boat going from the Minn Kota to the Force just in the 24 volt series, and that was a 55-pound thrust for the 24. So again, that's shut down. That was pretty much screaming on that. A lot of wattage. And I also got a fuse breaker here too. Yeah, that's an impressive difference. Oh, no. I'm showing you the fuse. I'll reset it here. That is an impressive difference. Yeah, nothing feels warm. Again, that's nothing I would ever do as far as just a continuous run. I would definitely recommend getting a little speed before you go wide open. That's 52 amps, 53, so that's pretty much spot on with what Garmin is saying. Full pull there. So that's, I'm gonna dial it back because again, no point in fishing when I run this wide open, even on the 24 volt. I never really used it. About the only time I would ever use it is same, and both of these are with the big motor being down. But if I was over here and I was fishing and I wanted to go across and I didn't want to fire the outboard up just to run across that little section, that's about the only time I'll use full speed on this. Other than that, I will pull some decent amps. So a lot of times I'll troll, let me dial it back here. If I'm trolling for bass, we'll be in the 2 somethings. So 2.2. So we'll just use that as a roundabout. And you can also do the cruise control is pretty sweet on this as well. Not turning this into a Force thing, but a lot of cool features. Honestly, I put the foot pedal out here one time just to see if it works. Other than that, I've literally done all my fishing with this. So whenever you set the cruise control, so if you start getting into wind, against wind, but you're trying to maintain that speed, depending on what type of trolling you're doing, you can do that. So on that, I'm pulling 7, almost 8, 7 to 8 at that 2.3. And again, that's where you can sit down and do the math and say, okay, if I troll like this with this much juice, how much usage can I get? Wow, you can really see from that wide open, that will absolutely suck some batteries down. So even when you hear guys talk about, you know, having a lithium pack and they say, hey, you know, I can run this thing wide open for 2 days non-stop, and it's like, well, even if you have a 70 amp hour or two put together, you're not going to take as many amps as that was pulling. You get the bigger battery packs you can kill in an hour. It's like, there's no way. So anyway, it's working. So I'm gonna drop some trolling rigs and you know, give it a tune. And I'm gonna keep an eye on these. I'm gonna go through, check that. Let's see here. I might have messed up, not charged all these. Another thing I'm doing is I'm gonna go through and check, see if one feels. I can sit here and check each one of them. A couple of these I did buy off eBay. I made sure they're the genuine Ryobi batteries, but I did buy a couple of them off eBay used, so it's hard to tell what their use might have been. But you can pick them up pretty cheap on eBay, used after the fact. I would not recommend the aftermarket batteries really for any brand. Most of the tests I see, they're not quite built as good. So if you had something short out one of these batteries, the name brand batteries, they do a pretty good job with the safety measures on them. Some of these aftermarkets you just don't know. But yeah, time to do some fishing. Alright, so I'm trolling this creek channel through here. I actually like using the Force as opposed to the outboard for this 2.2 to 2.3 mile per hour trolling. One, the outboard doesn't want to hardly go that slow. Two, being a tri-hole boat, really slow, it wants to kind of track, and you have to kind of really stay on top of the wheel there. With this, I can go in, select a point on the chart plotter, adjust the hidden sensor, and like literally while I can keep an eye on the lines and eat lunch and just, you know, pick my next point every now and again. Very easy, comfortable way of doing fishing. I'm pulling somewhere between 7 to 10 amp hours every time I check it. So if I had a 40 amp hour 36 volt battery, that would be 5.7 to 4 hours of use like this. If I had a bigger 73 amp hour battery, that'd be around 10.5 to 7.3-ish hours of use. So that's good comparable on the water. I'm going to comment on the BMS system, or the battery management system, the Ryobis. I have the chainsaw, for instance, if you're cutting a tree and it pinches, it knows that the load has went too high and the battery will kick the voltage off to save the tool or save the battery and stop from damaging something. Most name brand batteries are going to have some type of BMS just for that system to protect the tool and protect the battery and yourself. Some of the Chinese ones, some of the breakdowns I've seen, that seems to be the first thing that they skimp on, is that. So I would really, if you do any projects like this, know your battery, the BMS system, and know what you're working with before doing any type of project. So I already had Ryobi tools and batteries. This was mainly just a curiosity project for me, if I could make this work in this application. If you was going to purchase a battery, it would be smarter to just buy a big trolling motor battery. Being I already had the batteries, it was just a curiosity thing with me to see if indeed you could make this work. The one use that I still have for these batteries on the boat, and I'll definitely be using, is plugging up to the inverter. So I have a plug on my boat that I can charge my deep sail battery. So if I'm using that for the graphs, the radio, if you're doing extended fishing and you're running the graphs, you're putting power back in those batteries. Or even just summertime, I've got a halfway decent stereo on the boat, so if it's turned up and you're just hanging out in a cove, everybody's you know, swimming or just chilling or whatever, and you're running that radio wide open, that's a way to be able to put some juice back in those batteries without firing up your outboard. So if I was, or overnight catfishing for instance, I would bring a handful of these batteries on board with that little inverter and be able to put some juice back if I have an extended period where I'm using electronics and not having to fire up the outboard.
Check
interesting. I'm still trying to figure this out. So it went down to red. When I come up here, I check the voltage. It was down to like 35. Every battery, except that one's still full bars. So it's barely used any. So the thing I don't know is, and I wish I had marked which ones were the eBay batteries I bought and which ones I have, you know, used before and know they're good. So I don't know if there's an issue with this battery in particular and it's dropping the battery down, or if this battery out of the whole pack was taking was doing the majority of the work, and that's what pulled it down. So, and I specifically did all 6 amp hour batteries because I didn't want to have one battery that was stronger than another. That way the load is equal, and if it pulls that, and the wires doesn't feel any warmer on that one battery, so, which 6-7 amps ain't that crazy, but when you're talking about 50 amps, one of those packs is not going to handle that load at all. So, but well, I actually trolled a little bit longer than I probably would have normally. I'd already run across the spots I had marked, so I'm gonna run, go hit another cove, then come back and deliberately do some more trolling again. I'll leave this one outside of the pack, but yep, we're gonna hit a different spot. We're gonna keep running it, but I mean that's pretty good. We was 2.3 or so, and I mean I ran the whole creek section down, so it's doable. I just gotta figure out, was this a bad apple, or as the day progresses it's gonna pull a load more from one battery and then constantly pull that battery and drop the total voltage. That's what I gotta figure out. So when I look back at the video, it turns out when I had first pressed that one, after some use, it was at 2 bars, and then it went back up to 4, so that was a sign that battery was actually doing a lot more of the amp work compared to the other batteries, and why that one dropped down as quick as it did. Not to be a spoiler, but that's going to be the trim for the day with this battery pack, and continuously more batteries would take more of the load than the others. I'm stripe fishing today, so actually today is a lot more outboard use because I'm riding around slowing down certain spots looking for fish or bait on the sonar, versus same bass fishing, I'm working the banks or just trolling a full day wide open. Alright, so we're getting down to the end of the day here. Not quite done fishing. I might switch over to 24 volt and do a little night fishing before I put the boat back on the trailer. But I'm gonna say this is somewhat of a success, somewhat of a failure. The thing I did not like, and the reason I'm gonna say partly a failure, even though it did work, is there were some birds out, and I'm striped bass fishing, and they were hitting the water, and I was like, well, instead of firing the outboard up, I'm just gonna turn the trolling motor wide open and zip over there and do some casting at them. Well, it was going fine for a good little bit, and then all of a sudden it kicked off. Well, the same time the Force just kicked off, I noticed this battery pack and this battery pack blinked in unison, meaning that they were taking the big part of that load, and those two battery management systems shut down voltage, and when they did, momentarily it kicked the Force off. So if you are going to be higher loads, again, for some reason it pulls on some batteries harder than the other, and I haven't figured out exactly why, or nor do I know a fix for it. If somebody's smarter than me, I'll post a couple pictures of the wiring. But if there's a way to get all these batteries to work in unison, which was my hope, and that's why I all use 6 amp hour batteries here, that would be the fix, but they're not. So if it's taking higher loads on one battery than another, or potentially kicking them out, and especially if you're in the middle of a current or something like that, and then all of a sudden you ramp it up and it cuts off, that's just not a good day. Money wise, you'd be better just buying your lithium battery, and especially for the application. The only thing I would use this for, I would like to get like a little cheap John boat just to do some shallow river type fishing. So if a little lightweight boat, and I would never really need to go up in the amps much, yeah, I would probably throw this on there and use it for a day of light fishing. We got quite a bit of use out of it, 1,075. Today was striped bass fishing, so a lot more outboard time looking for stuff today than normal. But That's pretty close to, if you had a 24 volt 50 amp hour battery, that'd be about how much use that we ran through the Garmin. When it's getting down with this, and some of these are getting, you know, to the 1 or 2 under loads, it's starting to kick into the yellow. So I'm gonna conclude my test here, use these for power inverter, finish them off on this trip. But anyway, it was a cool project, had some fun. Anybody's got any other ideas on how to fix that, I'll play around with it again. But hey, don't know until you know. So the wire coming off the adapter is all 10 gauge. They're very close in length, within a few inches each there, some small trimming. The main power leads coming off the bus bars, they're the exact same length there. The only thing I kind of thought about a little bit after the fact is that main lead coming off the bus bar, if that was maybe more center, would that help distribute the load? That was the only thing I thought after the fact maybe check. But hey, if any electrical gurus out there see anything that kind of stands out as a way to balance the load on these batteries, if something simple, I wouldn't be against trying it and taking back on the water for a test too. If not, I'm gonna stick to my conclusion. I wouldn't recommend this for high amp loads. If you had a few batteries of this and you built it for a low amp application, apparently it can work. So I did basically a full day efficient. What most people would use for a lithium battery in a good day was done out of these packs. So again, hope y'all have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching.